Hello, hello, hello. Welcome one and all to Drawing Expressions, live streaming here on YouTube. I'm Parz, creative writing guy, and we're going to be doing some creative writing, oddly enough. Yeah, so if you're new here, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. As the Thai people say, Yindi Dijai Rujak. Nice to meet you. And if you're familiar, welcome back. Nice to see you. Okay. Let's see now here. So before I dive in, we're having one of those rare, lovely days where the smoke is not painfully painful outside and the temperature is nice. I mean, the doors are open. Yeah, it's a good day. Yeah, loving it here. So, and we are live. So that means that if anything unexpected happens, you get to experience it just in the same time that I am, or like 5-second delay, I guess. So it's kind of the same thing, like the sun stops working. You find out 8 minutes later when it suddenly gets very dark and very cold. Nothing that extreme, however. Please just, maybe just a cat running across the camera. And I say that every single time, and to date, it hasn't really happened. So I'm going to keep saying it because that seems to keep them away. Okay, so with that, let's just kind of go and get into the thing of the day. One last thing. Alicia is a bit under the weather, so the usual chat is not as active because she is the one who's posts for me. So yeah, I am watching it, but I won't be posting anywhere near as much. Okay, so let's get into the things. So, things to know. And the one thing that I will say every single time, we operate with guidelines, don't operate with rules. Rules have their place. Things like the rule of law, it's not the guidelines of law, it's the rule of law. There's a reason for that. But in the realm of creativity, guidelines are the thing. And before I move off this screen, I want to do a quick shout out to Tempo Voyager on Instagram, who did a lovely little card reminding her, I believe it's her, of this principle: guidelines bend, rules break. So yeah, it's awesome. If you want to see it, Tempo Voyager on Instagram, or you can go through my account. It's tagged and saved and stuff. Also on drawingXpressions, because she very generously tagged myself and drawingXpressions into it, both Instagram accounts. So anyways, yeah, check it out. It's just a lovely little piece of work, and it's a reminder: guidelines bend, rules break. Okay, so we do have the two pieces, the two sections to the live stream. Today's planner section, we're going to be looking at journal prompts and using them to tell stories. And in the pantser section, we're going to talk a little bit about how your creativity never really stops working. It's always operating in the background, and what that means. Yeah, but more on that in a little bit. So let's just get right into our breathing and stretching, get our minds and our bodies ready to think and be creative and write. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath in with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale in. And a little stretch. Nice and gentle. Don't overdo, like I did once and screwed up my back for 2 weeks. There we go. Nice. Okay. Let's get to the planner section of this live stream. So one of the things that, let's see here, how do I want to approach this? Whenever life hands you lemons, squeeze them and make lemon juice, and then, you know, add sugar if you need to, and then you have lemonade. Otherwise, you've got a nice cleaning solution that smells wonderful throughout the house. Naturally astringent. So my lovely lady love, life has handed her a whole bunch of lemons. So her health is not great. So there's a lot of things that she can't do. But one of the things that she has discovered that she can do is journaling. And so she has journals for keeping track of her health and whatnot. She has journals for like gratitude. She has journals that kind of tell about her day. She's got a 5-year, I mean, there's a number of different ways that she is taking information and recording it, putting it down. And so that has led me into, number one, a little bit of journaling myself. Yeah, waving that way, you can't see. It's like, this is one of my freehand story idea journal, along with my to-do journal and my brain puke journal, and then my whatever all miscellaneous journal. Yeah, so getting into the journaling world, and one of the big things that is there are journal prompts, things to get you thinking about about your day, or how do you feel about a certain thing, or where's your mind at in whatever. It sort of poses a question, and then the idea is that you answer the question, and it can be a very short answer, it can be a longer answer. But the thought usually is you're going to run straight at the question, and you're using the question as a prompt. You're running straight at it, and you're going to give an answer. And I'm suggesting that we can do maybe a little bit more with that. So let me call up my screen here. There we go. There we go. So I'm grabbing prompts from a couple of sources, journaling sources. So Joshi Corin, who also goes by Jess, lovely lady out of New Zealand, and the Coffee Monsters Co. She is also a journaler. She's out of Surrey, Canada, Surrey, BC. And here I do have the links for that. So I'm just going to grab those, and I'm going to drop those into the chat. There we go. I think that came up. No. Anyway, I will also, here, I'll just grab that individually. Let's give that another try. Okay. I will also drop those into the chat, not the chat, but yeah, the chat notes or the show notes. I'll put it somewhere so that they get proper attribution. Anyways, these two people, they have prompts, journaling prompts. They're free resources on their websites. And so I've grabbed those and I've said, okay, well, let's play with them. Let's see what we can do. So before we get into their prompts, their questions, I just thought I would create a sample and see where it is that I'm going with this. Okay, so I'm going to scroll and bring this up here. So example, the prompt is, what's your favorite color? Now my answer is purple. Can you tell? And so that could be one word answer in the journal, and you're done. Purple, violet, right? You could, expand on it just a little bit. What if, instead of telling what it is, what if we were to show? And so that, here, I'm going to come back here real quick. So that is the idea behind where we're going, okay, is to show what it is, how we can do this. So I'm just going to come back to the screen. So what form of response appeals to me? And so a color, you get there's a feeling to it, right? And so maybe there is something we can do that's maybe a little bit lyrical, a little bit poetic, a little bit even like a prose poetry, where you can have sort of like poetic words inside of like a prose structure. There's all sorts of things we can do with it. You can do anything you want, guidelines. But in this case, I decided I was going to answer this question with just a little bit of a rhyming poetry thing. So I'm just going to bring that up. Bold as emperor robes, born of sea snail snot, or living under leaves, the sun reaches not. Blue and red married, two colors, one blot, called purple or violet. I like it a lot. And so just throw together a little something. And as a quick explanation as to what is in here, just going to get that bit out of the way. Bold as emperor robes. So the emperor in olden times, they wore purple because it was so expensive to make purple that only emperors could afford to get it. Born of sea snail snot. So, strictly speaking, sea snail snot, sea snails don't make snot. It's the mucus, but nose mucus is snot, and I thought snot would be way more fun to use. So anatomically, not exactly correct, but I liked it, so I used it. Guidelines. Or living under leaves, the sun reaches not. So this one is a sort of a double whammy. So purples are a very common shade color in nature. And the funny thing is well, many lives ago, I had said something about purples not in nature at all. And my lovely lady love snorted at me and said, the artist in me is laughing hysterically because purple is everywhere in nature. It's all in shadows. So I put this in most as a reminder to myself, and also just as the fact of color theory, the purples are in there. So blue and red married, that's pretty clear. Two colors, one blot, also pretty clear. Called purple or violet, clear. I like it a lot. And so it's a simple rhyme, and in the end, I have told you that I like it, and I've told you why. What? Uh-oh. Anyway, I like it a lot. So we lost my train of thought. Lady Love is just yelled at me from upstairs. Anyway, anyways, we have this oh, blue. I'm remembering now. So I had said blue is not in nature. That's what she's saying. It was blue you said didn't exist. Right. I'm remembering now. Yeah, can't take me anywhere. So anyway, I said blue didn't exist in nature. Probably thought purple didn't either. Anyway, this is live. All right. Anyway, so you can do this little rhyme, and you can be corrected live while you're doing it. And you can work with this. Anyway, so that's the general idea, is to show what the answer, not just tell the answer. Okay, so with all of that said, I'm going to come back here real quick. And let's move into the prompt questions that I grabbed from the two sources. So I'm going to scroll. I'm going to come back. So let's see here. So we have right, Joshi Corinne and the Monsters, the Coffee Monsters Co. And I think here we go. Okay, so I'm going to come back to my sharing screen. So these I have grabbed. So the Coffee Monsters Co. So she has a daily prompt listed. It's grouped by month. And so the one for today: when do you feel most lonely, and when do you feel most socially connected? Wow. Okay. How do we handle that one? Let's give that one a bit of a thought, and then we'll come back to it. And then Joshi Corin, I found prompts for 2024, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter the date, but I just grabbed this one for 1 April 2024, Mind Unwind. And I thought that'd be kind of fun to play with as well. So we're going to use those two, and we're going to write. So at this point, I'm going to come back here. If you're here just for the ride of listening, stay with me the entire time. Just give her a listen. If you want to use one or both of those prompts and try your hand, great. And if you sort of mute down a little bit, that's okay. We'll come back to the breathe and stretch section, and you'll know that it's time to come back. Yeah, and if it's just a writing date, I'm just jabbering anyway, so just half listen. Anyway, I'm going to move over to, actually, I'm going to get my screen set up first. Here we go. I'm going to get my keyboard into my lap and get things set up. There we go. And now share my screen. Okay. So, actually, I just realized I did not write down the things separately. So I'm just going to, okay. In general, it was, when do you feel, I'm going to come back to, let's see here. I'm going to just talk to the room real quick so you don't see the things sliding back and forth. I'm just going to copy this. Copy and come back to, there we go. Whoops. Get that pasted in. There we go. Okay. Now I come over to the screen. Okay. When do you feel most lonely, and when do you feel most socially connected? Now, do we have to stick with most? No. But we can certainly choose to point out a time when we do feel lonely, and we can point out a time when we feel socially connected. And so I sat down and I thought about it for a little bit. And in thinking about it, what if we were to write from the point of view of feeling most lonely or feeling lonely? And there is that experience that a lot of people feel, and I am certainly one of them, who you feel most lonely when there's a bunch of people around and you're not engaged with any of them. It's easy to feel less lonely, at least for me, in an empty room, because then I can do things, right? I don't have to feel like I have to behave in a certain way, or I have to not, I can just sit down and play chess, right? Which is one of my my go-tos for doing when I want to just kind of have my mind go. So it's when people are around and I'm not engaged is when I feel most lonely. So what if we write from the point of view of being in a space and feeling most lonely. So when someone is in a crowded room and they're not engaged, there's a term for that, wallflower. So what if we had this person who's feeling quite lonely, or ourselves feeling quite lonely, and we're going to talk about the wallflower. And so that is where I want to start. So I'm going to put this into italics. I think I just turned italics on, because it's going to be internal dialogue. And there's a live, I think it's a live, maybe it's an old video that talks about internal dialogue. So certainly check that out. In fact, I'm going to make note of that. Got my pen case. And grab out my what is this? Pilot Juice. And it's got a number on. Oh, they're all number 5. Okay, so it must be the nib size. Yeah, link in internal dialogue. Okay, so I will remember that for when I post things. But this is what we're going to be doing. So, okay, I've got my italics turned on. So, there we go. It's an interesting plant. The wallflower. And I'm not going to, I'm calling it the wallflower. So it technically is a proper noun. So I'm going to go ahead and cap that. So the wallflower. The growing conditions of the wallflower, which come in a variety of sizes and colors, here we go, don't actually require a wall. The wall part is either a complete misnomer, or perhaps wall is a word from ancient Greece meaning shadow or spotlight, a verse, something like that. They're easy to spot in the presence of large enclosed, and actually you don't really have to have a large enclosed space, because it's just enclosed space of enclosed spaces where the presence of activity, light, and or noise are at their least. The flower is known to bloom only in laboratory conditions, although there have been rumors of, and here I'm going to So I'm going to interrupt the thought process of our wallflower. So to this point, they're talking about themselves, right? Being a wallflower, being a little bit, bad for themselves, right? Because the flower is only known to bloom in laboratory conditions. So like there's no chance that this person is going to be able to bloom. And I'm not saying I'm talking about me right now. This is just sort of we were just playing what if. This is just a guideline kind of thing. Or maybe you feel like this. I don't know. Maybe you do. It's okay. So I'm going to have this person interrupted by somebody else. So here we go. Hi. Okay, who is this person? We don't know. Just hi. And now we're going to be interrupted. Hi. And we're going to have that person interrupting say something on the like, you look like you're you're deep in thought. Penny for a thought. Okay, so penny for a thought. That's an old saying in English. Tell me what you're thinking. Okay, and now what's our wallflower going to respond? They could lie, say nothing. Maybe this is an opportunity to connect with somebody. So let's kind of go that direction. But you're going to be a little bit embarrassed too, because it is a bit of an odd thing, right? Was just mentally writing a wiki entry about the elusive wallflower. Now we're going to have this person respond back. That's funny. Encouraging. That's funny. And sounds like a lot of fun. Way more than I'm having right now. In here. Feel like having a collaborator. Whoops. Or perhaps a compatriot. Whoops. Compatriot. And we'll just sort of close this up with, I'd love one. There we go. So it's not an extraordinarily convincing conversation here, but this gives a bit of a note towards that original prompt. So I'm going to scroll back. When do you feel most lonely and when do you feel most socially connected? So what I'm trying to express here is I feel most lonely, or this person feels most lonely, when they're in a crowded room, not engaged with anybody. And you feel most socially connected when you are connected, when you're working with somebody, you're sharing ideas. And so that's, in the end, what it is that's trying to be expressed here. So it's an interesting plant, the wallflower. The growing conditions of the wallflower, which come in a variety of sizes and colors, don't actually require a wall. The wall part is either a complete misnomer or perhaps wall is a word from ancient Greece meaning shadow or spotlight averse, something like that. They're easy to spot in the presence of enclosed spaces where the presence of activity, light, and or noise are at their least. The flower is known to bloom only in laboratory conditions, although there have been rumors of, hi, you look like you're deep in thought. Penny for a thought? I was just mentally writing a wiki entry about the elusive wallflower. That's funny and sounds like a lot of fun. Way more than I'm having right now and here. Feel like a collaborator or perhaps a compatriot? I'd love one. And there we go. So not a lot of work, not a lot of thought going into this, but we are showing when we feel most lonely, or when we feel lonely, and when we feel engaged, socially engaged. And I think this is a great example. Now, would this fit into a standard journal? Depends on the size and whatnot. You might have to make space for it. You might have to start a new journal for your creative writing journal prompty thing. And that's okay, right? Because apparently you can never have enough journals. I mean, Lord knows I got 4 of them and I never figured I'd have more than 1. So that is that bit. Okay, now I'm going to make myself a little bit of space, and I'm going to come back to the share screen because we've got the other prompt to do, and this was mind unwind. Now, that first prompt was very specific, right? And and there's details involved in it. Mind unwind. Wow, it's quite open. What can we do with that? Well, again, it feels like we can go a bit poetic. What can we say about it? So when your mind is unwinding, where was it before you unwound? Well, it was wound. It was tight. It was a knot. It was hard. So let's start from there. Whoops. Twisted knot. Praying knot. Whoops. Knot. Dried out knot. Oops. Knot. Wrung out knot. Now, I am deliberately using the word knot over and over and over again because if our minds are wound up tight and whatnot, there's not a lot of thinking that's going on. There's kind of a repeated, like, banging your head against a wall. You can't really undo things, right? And so knot. I like it. This is a deliberate choice to not get clever, but to express this wound upness through this repeated use of knot. Now, let us then start to unwind a bit. And this is where we can start to get to be a little bit more clever. So what if we do something like this? It's not naughty to unknot the knotted. It's not awful, and is really quite lawful to give yourself a break. Breathe and unwind. Be kind to your mind. To relax and not feel like a flake. It's time to relax. I've got it. Okay, let's pull the comma out of there. Let's put a period in. Okay, so I think this needs just a little bit of work. So let's just go ahead and do that together. It's not naughty to unknot the knotted. I like that. Just start to unwind your mind from that whole knot. So you start to do a little bit of wordplay. It's not awful and is really quite lawful. I like that. A little bit of internal rhyme to give yourself a break. Now, do we want to have an internal rhyme on that, or do we want to let it go into something else? Well, the break and the flake, they rhyme together. So I think we can keep that to give yourself a break. Nice, short, succinct. We're going to stick with that. Breathe and unwind. Be kind to your mind. So again, we've got the internal rhyme. To relax and not feel like a flake. It's time to relax. I've got it. So I've got it is supposed to rhyme against knotted, which is close. We could probably find something that's a little bit better, but I'm just going to leave it there. So the, actually, I said it required work. I think I'm gonna leave it be. And it's time to relax. I've got it. Now this part I think is actually the most important thing, because people oftentimes will talk about how I should do this and I should do that and I would do this if only, and blah blah blah. The actual doing, and especially with something like this where it is it's one of those things where you're telling yourself don't do, or change your nature of doing. Here, I'm going to come back to the room. You're changing your nature of doing, where instead of just do, it's stop actively doing. Just give yourself a break. And hold on to that thought, because that actually plays really nicely into the next section, which is the pantser section, where we're going to talk about creativity. But before we do that, I am going to move us over here to the breathe and the stretch. So take a nice deep breath in. And stretch. There we go. Right. Good. So before we move on, how did your writing exercise go? Drop it in chat if you feel comfortable in doing that. Drop it into the comments if you're catching this on the replay and you're kind of playing along. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Anyway, I'm going to come back to my notes real quick, and here we go. So I want to talk about creativity. And my experience of creativity, and then we're going to get into an article that I found, and we're going to, we'll look at it, and then my hesitation will be maybe more clear. So I have often said, and I think I've said it once or twice here in live streams, that the conscious mind is sort of like a flashlight in a very dark but very busy room. And with it, so that busy room where it's really, really dark, that's your subconscious. And there's just like, there's a bazillion things going on all the time. And it works on all sorts of stuff, whether, the day's problems, or things that are coming up, or, worries or dreams or hopes. And it's all the sensory information. It's constantly working with that. It's very, very, very fast. There is a lot of stuff that goes on. It's very involved. The conscious mind is very slow and is not privy to 99% of what's going on. So you're kind of like walking around in the dark with a flashlight, and it's like you get a flash of this and a flash of that, and then your mind moves on to something else. And it's very small and it's very direct. So in the world of creativity, when you're not sitting down and and doing stuff, so like here I am, I'm doing this live stream, and I'm being creative, clearly. So when I close up the live stream and I go off and I do something else, do I stop being creative? And the answer is no. The subconscious is still chugging along. Maybe I've given it direction, and there's things that I'm working on, and it's just going to sort of silently work in the background. Or maybe there's nothing really there, and then, so it's just going to be like fun little bits that are just kind of floating around and might rise to the level of consciousness at some point. Just as a quick example, so one of the places that that a lot of people, and I do as well, experience a lot of sort of random creative thoughts is the shower, because your brain kind of turns off, and you're soaping up, you're doing your thing, and all of a sudden, like just like you're singing in the shower, or there's like this new solution to a problem that you've been working on or whatever. And so this one day I'm in the shower and all I can do is say buzzard. And I found myself saying it over and over again to the point where I realized I need to sit down and write a story that features buzzard. And that became the whole buzzard. And I love that story. And that just kind of came out of the blue. There was this idea. So it wasn't that I stopped being creative. It's just I turned off my attention on creative endeavors, right? I'm not thinking about it, but the mind is still churning away and it's doing its thing. So I found an article, and this is on musicradar.com. And so, so we're going to be adjusting a little bit here, because the article in Music Radar is specifically talking about the composing of music, but I am going to argue that the composing of lyrics, the composing of poetry, the composing of creative writing in general is the same process. It's just different elements that you are working with. It talks about how the Canadian great Neil Young, how he approaches the act of writing. And he is quoted as saying, and I'm just going to bring this up real quick. If you don't have an idea and you don't hear anything going over and over in your head, don't sit down and try to write a song. Go mow the lawn. And so, what he's saying is, don't sit there and beat yourself up trying to make something work. Just let things go. Let your mind work on its own. Let the subconscious do its thing, where it kind of will churn and try stuff out and give things a try. And as ideas sort of float up, then kind of you can sort of grab in and like, oh, okay, this is what I can work on. I couldn't work on the whole buzzard until I had the idea for buzzard, and then like, where do we go, and start to work with stuff. And I had to walk away from that story a couple of times because things either weren't working, or they weren't working within the constraints that I had, or things like that. In order to get your finished product, you have to allow yourself time to breathe, time to just let your brain do its thing, and you not get in the way of it by mowing the lawn, taking a shower, taking a walk, hanging out with friends, playing chess, whatever it is. I'm just going to scroll through my notes here. So the author of the article, I'm just going to come over here, share again, says until quite recently, they had never been able to fully embrace the thought that when they're not directly working, in this case, on a piece of music, and I'm going to say piece of creativity, that those creative gears keep turning in the background. But stepping away from the active making process and doing something else, and we've had the list, can be an effective way of lowering your anxiety levels. And if you're invested in what you're making enough, your brain can quite often dish up the solution. Ideas seemingly manifest right out of thin air, like in the shower or whatever. It's just like, boom, there it is. There's the idea. And then you write it down and then off you go. Sort of the idea behind morning pages, I believe, as well, where you just kind of, you go, or like my brain puke journal, where it's just like, just sort of writing stuff down, whatever comes to mind. Disjointed nonsense that kind of just was just getting in the way. Boom. And then sometimes like this gem just sort of pops up. And I'm going to go just a little bit further into, here we go, into creative blockages from Neil Young. So, see here. So he just says, and this is in the middle here. So when I write a song, it starts with a feeling. Right? For that one story for me, it started with buzzard. I can just hear it or feel it. And so hear it in the head, feel it in the heart. It may be just, I just picked up the guitar and mindlessly started playing, or I just sat down and started writing in my journal. That's the way a lot of songs for him, for me, writing begins. And when you do that, you're not thinking. Thinking is the worst thing for writing. And I'm going to drop the song. So when you just start playing and something new comes out, where does it come from? Who cares? Just keep it and go with it. And he says, that's what I do. I never judge it. I just believe it. It's a gift. The elements just show up. Now is not the time for interrogation or analysis. Now is the time to get to know that piece of creativity, not change it before you even know it. It is like a wild animal, a living thing. Be careful not to scare it away. And this fits in very nicely with the ideas that I have around my creative process, where you observe the idea, you scribe it down, and again, you're not getting the head involved. And once things are down, then you begin to edit, to put it into the form that you want it to eventually be in when you put it out to the public, or you put it into your, like a final journal, or into the blog post or the social media or what have you. So this is the basic idea. Don't get in your way. You are always creative. You're always creating. You just have to give yourself space to do it. And with that, I think that is a great place to sort of wrap things up. So I'm going to come over here to my drawingXpressions haiku. A creative space, holistically supportive. Please like, share, and subscribe. And please do. It helps us tremendously when you do any of those, and all of them is just super fantastic. If you share your stuff, please do so on with the hashtag DXLive with Parz. Very much appreciated. We do have the drawingXpressions link tree. And so, you know, you can always reach out to us through using that as well, and all the different ways that you can interact with drawingXpressions, with me, with Alicia, all that and more. Okay. So thank you so much for being here today and participating, making this part of your creative journey. And I look forward to seeing you next time. So until then, bye for now.